Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you are a leader, a manager, a supervisor, or really any kind of people development professional, you know firsthand that the quality of your conversations absolutely dictates the quality of your team's results, right? Yet studies actually show that most managerial coaching completely misses the mark. So today, we're unpacking a really premium, incredibly effective tool from Fred Clements' book, 30 Coaching Tools and Approaches That Actually Work. And look, this isn't some abstract academic theory we're talking about today. Not at all. This is a working toolkit designed for real people having real conversations to create real change. Let me start things off by asking you a very practical question. Do you ever feel like your coaching conversations are just going in circles? You sit down with a genuine desire to help a team member move forward, but despite your absolute best intentions, the conversation just gets bogged down in the exact same problems week after week. It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? Because, well, when we get stuck in that rut, a vicious cycle begins. We start seeing unclear conversations, a severe lack of confidence, poor ownership of projects, weak feedback loops, and ultimately stuck thinking. In so many of today's fast-paced workplaces, that old command and control style of leadership, where the manager simply dictates every single answer, it just completely fails to resolve these issues. In fact, it often makes organizations slow, dependent, and pretty fragile. We need a better way to guide people from confusion to clarity. Section 1. The Oscar Coaching Framework. Found in Chapter 7 of Fred Clements' book, this is your executive-level solution-focused roadmap, specifically designed to untangle those difficult conversations, focus on solutions, drive action, create results. The Oscar framework is a really practical acronym that actively moves people away from overanalyzing a problem. It pushes the dialogue towards clear outcomes, choices, action, and review. It's entirely built around those three pillars, focusing on solutions, driving action, and creating tangible results. Now, you might already be familiar with the classic Grow coaching model, so the crucial point here is understanding why a professional like Fred Clements often reaches for Oscar instead. See, while the Grow model focuses heavily on generating a list of options, Oscar explicitly forces the person you're coaching to weigh their choices and the resulting consequences. Options are infinite, and they cost nothing. Choices force commitment and consequences. Oscar stops people from simply brainstorming in a vacuum and actually makes them think about the real-world impact of their decisions. Plus, it builds a formal review phase directly into the acronym itself, ensuring the conversation doesn't just fizzle out into some vague action plan. As Clements perfectly captures in the book, where some coaching conversations can become stuck in the problem, Oscar helps keep the focus on progress. It absolutely acknowledges the current situation, sure, but it strictly prevents managers and team members from getting trapped in an endless loop of problem description. It forces the narrative to shift toward progress. Section 2. Putting Oscar into practice. Let's break down this acronym letter by letter. And to ground this, let's imagine a real workplace scenario where a team member is completely stuck, maybe failing to take ownership of a critical software launch. We start with O for outcome. The very first step is clarifying the desired result. Instead of letting them vent for 20 minutes about how hard the software launch is, you immediately anchor them in the future state. You ask something like, by Friday, what does a successful launch actually look like to you? Next up is S for situation. What's the current reality? Do they lack developer resources? Is a specific stakeholder blocking them? The vital key here is to gather just enough context to be grounded. But, and this is a big but, don't let it become a lengthy therapy session about everything that's going wrong. Okay, now we arrive at C, choices and consequences. This is the absolute game changer. We don't just ask, what could you do? We take it a step further. We say, if you choose to escalate this to the VP, what's the consequence to your relationship with the dev team? This is the exact moment where the coachee stops throwing random ideas at the wall and starts applying real, mature judgment to their potential choices. It is fantastic for building deep ownership. Once those choices are thoroughly weighed, we shift to A for actions. This represents the shift from vague, good intentions to concrete, committed forward motion. Saying, I'll think about it just isn't an action. You need a real commitment. Something like, I will schedule a cross-department sync by Tuesday at noon to resolve the blocker. And finally, R is for review. Listen, true coaching doesn't end the moment a plan is written down. By building the review directly into the framework itself, Oscar creates a mandatory built-in accountability loop. Great, let's review how that Tuesday sync went in our one-to-one on Thursday. It ensures that the great momentum you both just built together isn't lost the second they walk out of your office door. So, bringing our software launch example to a close, just look at how seamlessly this flows. 1. Set the outcome. 2. Assess the situation. 3. Weigh the consequences. 4. Commit to action. And 5. Schedule the review. By simply keeping these 5 steps in mind, a manager can completely untangle a stuck, frustrating conversation and really empower their team member with a highly visible, clear path forward. Section 3. Mistakes to avoid, because, as we know, even the absolute best models require your professional judgment to use effectively. Fred Clements outlines a few really common traps to watch out for. First, dwelling too long on the situation. Remember, the goal is to be solution-focused. Second, treating choices as a quick brainstorm instead of really taking the time to deeply weigh the consequences of those choices. Third, rushing straight to action before the true outcome is actually clear. Fourth, skipping that vital review phase. But honestly, perhaps the most important warning here is coaching without agency. If a decision has already been rigidly fixed by company policy and the person has absolutely no real power to make choices, well, using the Oscar model will just feel false and dishonest to them. Only use it when people actually have the power to act, and choose Section 4 from stuck to action. Let's bring all of this together. We started this explainer off by asking if your coaching conversations ever feel like they're just going in circles. The Oscar model is your practical, reliable toolkit to break that cycle. It builds confidence, fosters independent thinking, and drives real lasting change in your organization. It's all about guiding people toward clear outcomes, smart choices, committed actions, and continuous review. But it leaves us with one final, pretty vital question to ask ourselves. As leaders, are we truly coaching our teams to make choices, or are we just quietly waiting to give them our own answers? For more information, head over to clementsconsultancy.com to buy a discounted PDF copy of the book, or head over to Amazon for the ebook or printed version.